Coming up on show 644, the new Peugeot e-2008, smart charging in Japan, and question of the week gets answered. Those stories and many more coming up on today's podcast. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. In fact, wherever you're listening around the world, welcome to EV News Daily. My name is Martyn Lee. Here you go. Here's your edition for Sunday, the 17th of November. I've been through every EV story I can find to save you time, and I've been through all of your answers to question of the week. Haven't got time for all of them because there's so many people emailed and got in contact this week, but I've tried to pick out a representative sample. Hey, thank you as always to myev.com for helping me make this show, for being supportive and a long-time continued supporter of this show. So, warranties are really important with buying an EV. If you get the opportunity to get one from the manufacturer, definitely have a look. But if you need to find out more, there's a new warranty section on myev.com. Again, you've got to be in the US, but if you're getting a car with a plug, you do deserve to check out myev.com. So Clean Technica have had a look at the Ford Mustang Mach-E, however you say the darn thing. Now, the reveal is happening at the end, it's the end of Sunday, and it's actually about 2:30 in the morning UK time. So that'll be the full Mustang story. Will be, well, if there's any significant differences to what we told you on Friday, because somebody if you haven't heard Friday's show, I won't spoil it in case you're going back. Somebody put the webpage live. Brilliant. It looked legit, so we went with it. So we've already gone through the headlines, although actually so many. It's a very Ford thing, by the way. There's many specs, there's many options, there's a ton of things to get your head around, and some of them come in all-wheel drive and some of them are rear-wheel drive, and it's very Ford. Anyway, so we'll have a look on Monday's show when I'll wake up on Monday morning, and by 2:30 in the morning it would have all been over. So I'll be catching up. I won't be watching the live stream. I need to get my shut eye. However, Clean Technica have had a look at the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and they have got 12 reasons why they think it will be successful. And I think this is a really nice way of looking at what is a very exciting car. First of all, the name, they say Mustang comes with a lot of loaded insinuations about the car. Performance car, but using that Mustang name. Number 2, advertised by Ford dealers. Yes, it will be. And there are many, many Ford dealers. They've got a big footprint all around the world. Number 3, sold by a dealer close to you. And yes, that's going to be very important as well. Lots of people do not want to buy their car on the internet. For many people, the car is this. Even if you're doing monthly payments, it's the second biggest purchase you make behind your house. And so, a lot of people don't want to buy their car on the internet. I know, shock horror. Tesla fans looking at their speaker or their listening device now, going, why would anybody not buy it on the internet? Some people want to walk in and have the dealer experience. I totally understand that, and it's a strength for the Ford. Number 4, the car isn't ugly. And I agree. Well, the grille hasn't got a grille, obviously, because it's an EV. The front is not to my personal taste, but I've seen some very flattering words written about the front of the car. But everything apart from that nose, backwards, I think, is lovely. Looks aggressive. It's a great size. It's kind of SUV crossover-y, but not too tall. I think it's a very nice looking car. Number 5, it's not slow. I agree. It's very quick. Number 6, models with 300 miles. And that's important. Okay, so if you want to get the Mustang Mach-E with 300 miles, you're going to have to wait a little bit past the launch edition, and you're going to have to pay a lot of money. But the point is, that's the big number, and it's a good big number. Number 7, fast charging on a 150 kilowatt charger. Yeah, it doesn't mean it. I will put a caveat on this one. I would say it doesn't mean it charges at 150. You want to, if you look at the small print, it says when connected to a 150 kilowatt charger. That doesn't mean it's a subtle difference, but people got carried away with the Korean cars because they say when connected to a 100 kilowatt charger, and because of the amount of juice that the battery can take. What are the new the e-Niro and the Kona? They top out at 70, mid-70s, isn't it? Anyway, not 100. At number 8, the FordPass Charging Network. Well, Ford, yeah, again, little caveat, Ford haven't built a charging network, but they have done deals, and they will mean that you can plug your car in and then get billed. At number 9, the car is affordable, and I'd agree, because they still get $7,500 tax credit on next year's tax bill for those that qualify, which of course Tesla lose. And number 10, interior is modern, and it is. There's two screens, one big central screen and a little mini. They haven't quite gone for the single screen. They've gone for a screen behind the steering wheel. 11, it's not a Tesla, and that is a reason why it will be successful. Believe it or not, there are people who don't want to buy a Tesla, but they do want to buy a Ford, and they are looking forward to this one. And number 12, Ford will make a lot of them, and they certainly will. They've got big plans to make them in the US, and good luck. Now, let's move on. UK reservations are open for the all-new Peugeot e-2008 SUV. Buyers can reserve the all-new e-2008 SUV from Peugeot in GT line trim, cost £32,000. That is including the government grant of £3,500 we get, already taken off. It's also going to be available in Active, Allure and GT trims. They got LED headlights, Smart Beam Assist, LED rear lights, the signature 3-claw graphics on it. Interior with coloured stitching, mood lighting, dynamic seats and aluminium pedals. Ooh. Fleet and company car buyers are certainly looking forward to looking at the specs because of company car rules. The zero-emission e-2008 SUV is exempt, like all EVs, from paying benefit-in-kind tax from April 2020. You get that for a year, then it goes up just by 1% a year. Powered by a 100 kilowatts electric motor, that's 136 horsepower, and it's got a 50 kilowatt hour battery. Under WLTP test cycle, it'll do 193 miles of range. And let's go from here in the UK to Japan. Now, currently, EVs account for 0.5% of all new cars sold in Japan. However, several Japanese automakers are preparing to launch EV models in the next couple of years and support the adoption of EVs in the country. Now, what they're going to do is there's a company called Drives, DRIIVZ. By integrating bits of Drives charging management platform into a smart charging service, there's a company called Enet, E-N-N-E-T, or Enet. They will use Drives platform to analyse your power usage patterns and analyse the power of its customers as well. What they'll do is identify when the energy grid is having least demand, and their tech will charge your car sufficiently for the following day according to what it thinks you will need. Functionality to remotely start and stop charging, of course, is enabled, and of course you can override these things. It'll learn what your daily commute is, but if you know you've got a big journey the next day, of course you can tell it to fully top up your battery, regardless of how busy the grid is or not. Right, final bit of news for the end of the weekend. Coloradans can catch a ride soon in a new electric Kia Niro as soon as December next month, because, according to the Colorado Sun, Lyft is making a fleet of 200 of the long-range electric crossovers available for lease for its Colorado drivers. The ride-sharing company earlier this week rolled out the plan, its first attempt in the US to make an electric vehicle fleet available to Lyft drivers. Thanks to a law change earlier this year, legislators opened up the Colorado EV tax credit program to rental companies and businesses with fleets in an attempt to attract a company like Lyft to put mass EVs on the roads. Lyft, which lobbied for the change, hopes the laws will change in other states too, and if so, they will do more of the same. Great. We love to use a ride-hailing service and jump in to a pure electric car. I mean, there's lots of people that don't use ride-hailing services, that don't want to use an Uber or a Lyft, but for those that do, I would definitely say that people who listen to this podcast would choose to request an electric pickup vehicle. Right, on to question of the week this week. It's been a really, really busy one for question of the week. I was asking you, and I was being a bit mean, what one thing, only one thing, is the best thing about driving an EV, and you can't have any more than one. Now, Damon Ireland kicks us off. A key reason for owning an EV is not being beholden to fuel companies. In New Zealand, we pay $2.20 a litre for petrol, and it goes up quickly when overseas events affect the value of crude oil. In contrast, electricity hasn't changed where he is in New Zealand for over 3 years, and so it's Yeah, absolutely. You never know what price at the pump as you drive up to it. You never know what price you're going to pay. Many people fix their domestic electricity price, and if you don't fix it, it's pretty stable. You can normally budget for what your EV is going to cost you. Doug Vowles in Canada says, "Hi Martin, first off, last week my wife and I ordered our first electric car, the Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus, hoping to get it by the end of the year. Thank you very much for updating the EV News Daily podcast audience, Doug. We are all delighted for you. Right, question of the week. Doug says his one reason is zero emissions. I wouldn't look at any car that wasn't zero emissions." Don Miller says, "I never run late for an appointment because of having to dash in and get gas, because every night you charge it and you leave home in the morning with 200 miles. Phil Kemp says, "I would vote instant torque as the biggest advantage. Not only convenient, but can be a lifesaver." James Penfold from EV Launchpad. A question of the week. "Stomping on the gas pedal never gets old when you're running on guilt-free, inexpensive, renewable energy." That's from James Penfold in Boston. Daffod says, "Genuinely, I'm more interested in EVs because they are less destructive. May the sun shine on your panels," he says. Well, I haven't got any panels myself. They're coming early next year, I think. I hope. Fingers crossed. Adam DeVries says, "I bought my car because it was electric. I hated going to gas stations. Someone just asked me if I liked my car because it was electric or because it had autopilot. I can't decide if I would rather drive a car that was electric or one that had autopilot. I think I prefer the convenience of an EV." Aaron McInnes says, "Being able to plug in my garage and go every morning without worrying about filling up." Would he be? He's not an EV owner yet, but that would be his one thing. But he does a lot of miles, about 4,500 Ks a month. He's a heavy driver, and so just yet he hasn't found his perfect EV yet. But you will. Dave Jewson from evsmiles.co.uk. Dave Jewson says the number one thing about an EV: more smiles per mile. Love it. Hi to Cortine, who says, "My favourite feature is getting it de-iced and pre-warmed in the winter. Can't beat driving past your neighbours who are outside scraping their cars." Marty Young says, "My one thing is acceleration. I'm a pilot and I love when I push the throttle pedal and feel the acceleration press me back into my seat. The speed increases until the wheels leave the ground. I get a similar feeling in my Volt." Serverless Billy says, "What's the one upside? I give you the experience itself." And I think you've cheated here. You've cheated. I said one thing, and he says the best thing about the experience is the admiration, the thumbs up, answering the questions of FUD, being able to talk to people about EVs, the camaraderie, the driving experience, he says. Okay, I'll let you have all of those things under the heading of the driver experience. Hello to, I think, is it Oyvind or Oyvind? "Best thing about my EV is better fuel economy." Tom Raftery says, "The one thing I love about driving my EV is I'm living in the future." Now, Tom has a 5 kilowatt solar array. Ooh, 5. Nice. Big system. 5 on my roof, and I charge the car. Lack of emissions, the zippiness of the car, and the quiet ride. You can't have 3 or 4 things. You got to have one. And Tom says the one thing is living in the future. That's brilliant. There's so many more, by the way. If you want to have a look at all of the comments, so many people left them as comments on my YouTube channel, and you can flick through the comments and see. Otherwise, the podcast would be an hour long if I read them all out, but thank you very much. Should we set a new question of the week? Go on then. Right, brand new question of the week. If you were marketing, and this came from one of your fellow listeners, by the way, and it's all to do with the new Ford Mustang being out today as well, later today, US time. They've got to start advertising it. Now, we know Tesla don't advertise, but other companies do. I've seen Ford advertising a lot in my Twitter timeline for this new Mustang. So here's your question. If you were doing the marketing for a new EV brand, or even Tesla, because they might advertise one day, if you were doing the marketing, how would you do it? If you had a TV ad, what would be on it? If you were going to have a billboard, what would be on it? If you were doing the marketing for an EV brand, maybe you are all of a sudden, imagine that you are the head of Ford's TV advertising department. How are you going to advertise the new Mustang? Please let me know, and I'll read out yours next Sunday. Email me, hello@evnewsdaily.com, or leave a comment on YouTube and Facebook. Well, thank you very much to 251 patrons of the podcast. Couldn't do it without you. My premium partners, Phil Roberts, of Electric Future doing those big solar installs. Brad Crosby, my premium partner, thank you, Brad, and Avid Technology, making so many of the bits that EVs wouldn't be able to run without. Hello to my partners as well. David Allen, been with me for ages. Thank you, David. OEM Audio of New Zealand. If you are in New Zealand, I know I can see from my stats, I have plenty of listeners down under and in New Zealand as well. Go to evpower.co.nz. Hello to Paul O'Connor. Thank you, Paul. I mentioned Try EV earlier in the week in the UK. They want to get you playing in an EV and seeing what it's all about. TryEV.com. Gareth Hamer. Thank you very much, Gareth. And my latest partner is eMobility Norway. And you can check them out at eMobilityNorway.com. And all of my executive producers. That's Alan Robson, Alan Shed, Alex Banahini, Alexander Frank, Anders Hove, Ashley Hill, Bjard Fuchstack, Barry Penniston, Brent Kingsford, Brian Thompson, Brian Weatherall, Bruce Bohannon, Cesar Trujillo, Charles Hall, Chris Hopkins, Colin Hennessy, Craig Coles, Craig Cooper, Craig Rogers, Damien Davis, Stan Fairs, Darren Bird, Darren Sant, Yorkshire EVs, Dave Jewson, David Barkman, David Finch, David Partington, David Prescott, Derek Riley from TheEffect.net, Dirk Rutsat and Don McAllister, making those videos at screencastsonline.com for Mac users. Enrico Stefan Chillo, Frederick Rovik, Free Jewel, aka James, Gene Rubin, Jeff Lowe, George Clargo, Ian Griffiths, Ian Sear, Jack Oakley, James Storr, Jeff Urbies, Jerry Allison, Jim Morris, John Bailey, John Lacey from Click Clack Video NZ, and John, who is Beardy McBeardface, just got some new solar PV as well at Kent EVs. John Nodell, Juan Gonzalez, Ken Morris, Kevin Mason, Carl Mayen, Lars Dallager, Lawrence D. Allen, Lee Brown, Luke Cully, Marcel Lohman, and Marcel Ward. Now, Mark Bossert. Now, Mark, I got his name wrong last time I mentioned. He sent me an email to say I somewhat butchered it. Oh dear, Mark, what have I done? I think that's right. Bossert. Correct me if I'm wrong. Marlin Shell, Martin Croft, Matt Piccioni, Matthew Ellis, Maz Shah, Mia Oppelstrup, Michael Pastroni, Michael Cuffin, Mike Rogers, Mike Winter, Nathan Gore-Brown, Neil E. Roberts and Sussex EVs. Northern Explorers, Ohad Aston, Paul Ridings, Paul Shelley, Paul Stevenson, Perry Simpkins, Pete Glass, Pete Gorton, Peter and D. Roberts at Oxon EVs, Phil Mouchet, Pontus Kinblad, Rajiv Narayan, Ralph Jensen, Renee Schneider and Rob Cooling at appledriving.co.uk. Rob Hermans, Robert Grace, Robin Tanner, Rupert Mitchell, Sabby the Cat, Sarah McCann, Sari Kangasoja, Seiki Payne, Steve John, Stuart Hanna, The Limousine Line in Sydney, The Plug Seeker, and his YouTube channel. Tim Gutteridge, William Langhorne, and Zach Hurst. There are 643 previous shows on the internet. Loads of interviews, loads of news about your favourite topics. You can check them all out. Get the new ones. And if you're a subscriber on your favourite podcast channel, it is a free subscription. If you can spread the word about the podcast, it'd be fantastic as well. Remember to answer question of the week, and we'll get yours on next weekend. In the meantime, have a wonderful day. Catch you soon. There's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.